hard to imagine a more anticipated opening to a final series than the first qualifying final at the G tomorrow. Our watch listers have been busy at work studying the numbers. They've been in the lab for zero. Leigh Montagna, welcome.
Hello, Jared, Robbo.
Welcome
David
out
King,
of the lab.
hello.
Don't build it up too much.
Yeah, I know.
Just keep a lid on it, can you,
Super
Jared?
excited to learn. All right, so
Hello,
let's
boys.
start with tomorrow night, the territory battle, Joey. You have broken down the numbers.
Yeah, well, let's start with... I first of all want to touch on, while we get into these games, Simon Goodwin said a quote after last season when they got knocked out, that your vulnerabilities get exposed in finals. And I think it's one of the great lines, because that's why we talk about what sort of shape is your game in going into the first week of finals. You have to have a rock-solid game and have minimal vulnerability so that they don't get exposed. And we take a look at this Melbourne-Collingwood game, and this is going to be fascinating. And the conditions are going to play a factor, but to what extent we don't know yet. But when we talk about the territory battle, this is the biggest challenge against playing against the Demons. They are, particularly since the back half of the season, clearly the number one team in the competition at playing the game in their forward half. So overall, across the whole season, they're sitting second, but the last 12 weeks, they've been coming and they are playing the game in their half. They're averaging 10 more inside 50s a game than their opposition. So everyone's talking about Melbourne's efficiency. They're not really efficient when they go inside 50. You don't necessarily have to be when you're getting 10 more looks at it than your opposition. And we know it's become an issue for Collingwood since the halfway mark. So the start of the season, they were ranked third in that category. They were winning contests, they were winning clearance, and they were playing the game on their terms. As the season's gone on, since about the midway point, that's dropped right away to the point where they're 12th. So you feel like the game is going to be played in Melbourne's forward half.
What do they like at keeping it in?
Well, this is the point now. So the next point, though, is, but this is Collingwood's greatest strength, is they have been winning games off their ability to score from the back half. By far and away, the number one team in the competition at scoring from their defensive 50, from transitioning the ball. We've seen it all year long. You think about Markov and the boys taking the run and the carry out of the back half. So that is Collingwood's greatest strength. That's even though, despite those numbers playing the game in their back half, they've still been winning. The problem is when you play against Melbourne, they are the best team in the competition at locking it in their forward half and stopping teams from transitioning. So for me, this is going to be the game. They are the number one team at winning the ball back in that front third of the ground. So can Collingwood penetrate and get through this Melbourne team defence that King and I've spoken about? I think it's the best team defence in the league. They are all on the same page. They've worked together for a number of years. Can the Pies get through that team defence?
All right, the strategy piece. Now the individuals who might be able to separate it.
Yeah, because you are what you are as a team now. And I think that it shifts to performance, whether that's team and system and structures and all those sorts of things that they have meeting after meeting about through the course of the year. But in the end, it comes down to one of, in my opinion, 6, 8 or 10 players to separate these games. Now, there's no bigger weapon in the game right now than Max Gawn. There's not one player left in a final series this year that if Max is on, it can get near Max. There's not. What he does between the arcs separates the games. His contested marking, he's taken 34 contested marks between the arcs. The next best is Charlie Curnow with 26. It's a massive gap. And he's done it in only 20 games. It doesn't matter who's there. And Collingwood, they'll try hard to get Darcy Cameron to him, and they'll try hard to get Cox to him, but it doesn't matter. He ragdolls them. He just moves them around. He's physically too strong for these guys. So they've already had a win because they've forced Collingwood to pick 2 ruckmen. Collingwood want to play fast footy. They want to go at speed, out of the back half, all those sorts of things. But he's just going to do this. If he does this for 3 weeks, it's over. It's over. That's why it's really easy to fall in love with Melbourne, because their trump cards are so big. And I can't say it anymore. At this stage of the year is about your weaponry. And he's the biggest weapon in the game still.
Well, he can't be allowed to be played the way he wants to play the game.
How do you stop it?
Hey, what do you do?
You just be physical with him as much as you possibly can. That's what happens. You've done it. Your team's done it. You just can't allow him to be the kick-out target and then the defensive target stopping everything. He's got to be ran into every contest he goes to. Yeah. That's what I'm expecting to happen.
That's the tall of it. I rather like you've gone the short of it at Collingwood.
Yeah, look, we watched a lot of footy together, Joey and I, and there's someone that'll stand up that's a small forward or a half forward type. Keepers and players haven't had great impact in games the last few years in the finals. I think this guy's got a 4-goal game in him, Bobby Hill. He's been giving a lot off. He's so unselfish. His front and square work I think is almost the best in the competition. Whether he goes back or front, he times it perfectly. He knows where it's going. His speed is something that will really challenge the back six of Melbourne. Don't you think, Joey?
Yeah, they lack a bit of leg speed, don't they? The Demons, if there is a knock on them defensively.
So he's kicked 13 goals. He's kicked a goal in 11 of his last 13 games. So he's hitting the scoreboard. He's got a switch. The really good players know when there's a turnover in the offing, and they're gone. They know where the space is and they get out the back. And when you have his wheels, it's over, Robbo. So I can see Bobby Hill being a high-level contributor tomorrow night in the wet.
Who gets him?
Well, they team defence and no one really.
I think they back their system in Salem, Bowie, Judd McVie. They might
How to
just
back
throw
a system when a guy runs 11 seconds.
and that's right, but that's how they might get through Collingwood. They've got to back their leg speed in the forward half. McCreary back in the side.
Yeah.
Challenge Melbourne. You've got to find a way to challenge them defensively.